Being tough on negotiations, but if they could get a little help, a deal fast, it'll be good for the family.
You believe that, sir? You believe that?
He said there was something in it for me, on my own.
I've always taken care of you, Frank.
Taking care of me? You're my kid brother, you take care of me? Did you ever think about that? Did you ever once think about that? Send Fredo off to do this, send Fredo off to do that. Let Fredo take care of some Mickey Mouse nightclub somewhere. Send Fredo to pick somebody up at the airport. I'm your older brother, Mike, and I was stepped over. It ain't the way I wanted it. I can handle things, I'm smart. Not like everybody says. Like dumb, I'm smart, and I want respect.
Is there anything you can tell me about this investigation? Anything more?
The Senate lawyer, Chris, right? He belongs to Roth.
You're nothing to me now. You're not a brother. You're not a friend. I don't want to know you or what you do. I want to see you at the hotels. I don't want you near my house. When you see our mother, I want to know a day in advance so I won't be there.
Well, you understand all that taken into custody?
Yes. Can you give us your reaction to the High Court of Israel's ruling? I'm a retired investor on a pension. I went to Israel because I wished to live there as a Jew in the twilight of my life. Hey, Frankie, come on out. Let's play some hearts. Frankie!
Is it true you're worth over $300 million, Mr. Roth?
I'm a retired investor living on a pension. I came home to vote in the presidential election because they wouldn't give me an absentee ballot.
Jesus Christ. Hail Mary, full of grace. Blessed art thou amongst women. Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
Okay, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm just showing some of the videos that I would show for the US foreign policy class on social movements and interest groups, which we started to talk about interest groups in the previous week. Because of course, you know, trying to show videos before class is difficult. We have to get set up. So let me talk first, before I forget, of course, do the Cyber Campus attendance. Hooray, Cyber Campus attendance. And we are already in week 11, and do the smart attendance, and your lucky number is 598. Yes, 598 is your lucky number. 598. So I'll let that run, and I will go back to the class. And I want to try to show always how the information we're covering in the class is relevant to, important for understanding what's going on today, to try to show the significance of what we're covering here in class. And wouldn't you know it that right after we met on Friday, and I talked about the three paradigms or perspectives on understanding public policy making, in the European Union policymaking class, the group approach, or also called the interest group approach or the polyarchy approach, the elite approach and the class approach, three different ideal typical models of how government decides how to act on some issue, any issue. We call that public policy. And not acting, deciding not to act, is an action. So deciding that we're going to allow market forces to work rather than affecting those market forces, rather than choosing to affect those market forces, is also a public policy choice. That's public policy. So we talked about the three perspectives, and we talked about how the example of veggie burgers, veggie burgers. And right after I met, of course, and after we met, I told you on Friday that to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to control global warming, we have to do much more than simply move away from fossil fuels in transportation and electricity generation. We also have to deal with food raising, food production. And this article highlights that efforts to limit, the same day, of course, on Friday, efforts to limit global warming often focus on emissions from fossil fuels, but food is crucial, according to new research. Rising greenhouse gas emissions from worldwide food production will make it extremely difficult to limit global warming to the targets set in the Paris Climate Agreement, even if emissions from fossil fuel burning were halted, this reported Thursday. But they said that meeting one of the targets, limiting overall warming this century to 1.5 degrees Celsius, could be achieved through rapid and ambitious changes to the global food system over the next several decades, including adopting plant-rich diets like veggie burgers, increasing crop yields, and reducing food waste. So that European Parliament decision to continue to allow veggie burgers to use that name for products that have no meat in them is actually not so insignificant, not so worthy of mockery by the elite perspective. So just to show you that, again, food production and changing food production, and therefore changing what we eat, changing what you and I eat. Bulgogi bad, bulgogi bad, bulgogi bad, right? We should be eating more tofu, more kimchi, kimchi, tofu, good. And bap, good. Bulgogi bad. Okay, so, also, let me see, just remind us what I have here in the record and the class lesson plan. So you can see we have a debate on Friday, but nobody signed up. So it'll be a class debate, pro versus con, on whether to South Koreans, the European Council determines the parameters of democratic political participation, what they should mean determines, sorry, it should be what the parameters, I think I fixed that on the website, what the parameters of democratic political participation should mean in the European Union. So, you know, that sounds like a very elite-focused approach, right? The elite of the European Union, of course, the top elite, the prime ministers and the presidents, along with their supporters and bureaucrats and civil servants, determine how much you and I are allowed to participate in politics. Determine how much we're allowed to participate, I should say, in making, not participate in politics, that's a bad way of phrasing it, to participate how much we can in making public policy. That sounds very elite approach focused, right? And of course they think it's a good thing. And I already mentioned that textbook that I'm going to use next semester for my European Politics and Society class highlights how in the midst of the tremendous changes in European Union institutions since the Lisbon Treaty was adopted, with the European Central Bank and now the European Commission getting more and more financial power, fiscal policy power, including borrowing hundreds of billions of euros. The European Commission will now borrow hundreds of billions of euros by selling Euro bonds or Corona bonds or whatever you want to call them. That's all being done without requiring that the European Union citizens and their elected parliaments ratify those changes, right? The last time we had referendums was in 2009, and we haven't had any in 11 years, and I don't know the next time we will have them. Looks a lot like class elite approach to me, right? And that ties into our topic for this week, which is EU democracy. Hooray, democracy! And you know, in public policy making, we should be all able to participate in making public policy, right? And as I said, the advocates of liberal capitalist democracies highlight. I'm going to have to mute people if they don't stop the noise. There's somebody's. Okay, so mute yourself if you can. Otherwise, I have to mute you. And of course, this highlights this democracy issue. Focuses on participation. What does it mean to participate in politics, in the political system? And keep in mind, this is a really, really important topic. This is a really, really important topic. You know, we should always keep in mind the big questions, the big issues that we talk about when we talk about issues like European Union democracy. What does it mean to be a democracy? What does it mean to be modern? I talked, and I have to call up open up another website here, but we talked about how, what is the meaning of being modern? That's a really important topic, right? What does it mean to be modern? What does it mean to be the modern era? Well, there's lots of different ways to define what the modern era means. There's no single way, but I gave you a way to think about the modern era by focusing on politics, right? And so let me find that website here. And how did I ask you to think about what it means to be modern? What does being modern mean versus being traditional? And does anybody want to remind us what that is? You're not going to remember it, so I'll just tell you. Remember, it's a society becomes modern when it moves from ascription to achievement as the basis for giving you and me status and respect. In other words, status and respect and honor in society. Status gained through achievement is being modern. At least that's the perspective we take in this class. In traditional societies, in other words, societies hundreds of years ago, long before the French Revolution, right? Your status, your level of respect and honor, and your position in terms of respect and honor relative to each other as members of a society was based upon your birth. It was given to you, it was ascribed to you. You didn't earn it. You couldn't change it. If you thought and tried to change it, you would be charged with blasphemy. You're disobeying the will of God. because the assumption was that God made this world. God makes the sun, God makes the moon, God makes the clouds, God makes fall, winter, spring, and summer. God makes the king, the Lord, the marquis, the priest, and me, the peasant. And God made the world this way. He made what we call social relations today the same way he made the sun and the moon and the stars and the trees. And if you want to change your position, your status, by your own efforts, then there's something wrong with you. Presumably, a demon has possessed you. Blasphemy. That is a traditional society, but in a modern society, status is gained through achievement, and that is why you have ambition. You cannot be ambitious unless you think you can change your status. And you are ambitious, and I am ambitious. And that is a highlight of modernity, that we can change our status through our own efforts, or we should be able, that's even more important, that we should be able to change our status through my own efforts. And we should have equal opportunity to do that using what God gave, well, what we were born with. Some people are born smart, some people are not born so smart, like Fredo. Fredo, unfortunately, was not born very smart. So he was very ambitious and he did stupid things. And he ended up being shot because he did stupid things because he was too ambitious for his capabilities. But, we highlighted in class how this awareness that the world changes through human decisions and through human actions, not because of the will of God, but because of the actions of other people, determine my well-being, my status, my future, your future, our future. That awareness causes people to shift to status, to achievement as the basis of status. And we highlighted how there are 4 critical trends historically that associate with that growing awareness. And that awareness becomes more and more widespread as a consequence of the pace of change in society increasing. Societies always change over thousands of years, but in the modern era, in the last few hundred years, the pace of change has accelerated because of economic development, And people can see the change that's always been there because it's becoming much more fast. And they become aware of this possibility of change through human action, through human will. And as a consequence, we see 4 critical factors that associate with that in terms of politics. And this happened first in Europe. So this is relevant to Western Europe. This happened first in Europe, in Western Europe, not Eastern Europe, Western Europe, France, Great Britain in particular, right? And that's, like I said, that's why this class is now in English, because modern societies with modern economies, and you can't have modern economies without ambition, right? Have a tremendous power advantage over traditional societies, and that's why the Europeans conquered the world with their empires, right? Because they were the first to go through this change process, and the 4 critical trends that associate with that change process are you start to demand to participate in making policy, public policy, foreign policy, determining who's going to rule your country, rule you. You want to participate. You become politically participatory because you are aware that people make this world, so you want to participate in making this world because it affects me and you and your children and your family and everybody else. So public opinion emerges. People watch what their leaders do and they pass judgment on it and they try to affect it. And we covered the 3 other critical trends as well. People acquire large self-identities communities. They go from just being a member of a family in their own thinking and the member of a village to becoming aware that there are a lot of people that are French or like them, or Chinese or Korean or Japanese or Russian or German. And they see that their own individual fate, or they believe that their own individual well-being and fate depends upon the well-being and fate of that big community that's sort of like them, that speaks the similar language, that versus a certain religion. And that's formed through socio-historical processes, right? So religious identity is stronger in Bulgaria than it is in Germany as a factor in shaping German nationalism versus Bulgarian nationalism because of the nature of the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Turkish Empire emphasized ruling and governing the empire among the imperial authorities by religious community, the millet system, you know, Christians, Jews, and Muslims, the millet system. So, but that's another topic. And we talked about, thirdly, also people start to demand change and reform, right? If I want to shift in my status in society through my efforts, I want to know what the rules are. And the rules should apply the same to everybody, right? How do you know I achieved? We have to agree on what the rules are, right? Well, I earned a lot of money and I have the right to keep that money. And you can't keep more money simply because that's always been the traditional way, that you're a marquis or a duke or a baron and you get 1/3 of everything that goes through your territory. Why? Because you say it's your ancient feudal right. That's not good enough. So people start demanding institutional reform. They want institutional standardization. Institutions are rules and roles. And fourthly, we started seeing the emergence of new kinds of political leaders. You go from being elites, go from being aristocratic yanban that are inherited through their title, whether they be dukes and marquis and pashas and sultans and popes, whatever, to trade union leaders and guerrilla fighters and teachers and journalists and professors, right? So the reason I bring this all up again is because in political science, you often find that this person's thinking is really powerful. And he was a brilliant man, Max Weber, right? Max Weber, like we talk about this in other classes, he highlights the emergence of Protestantism religion along with the emergence of early capitalism. As people are understanding on an implicit level that the world is changing because of accelerating economic change, we start seeing the beginning of the change of their thinking in terms of their religious thinking, because that's what they know. I mean, they didn't take this political science course with me, right? What do they know? They know the Bible. They know religion. So we see religious movements beginning as the first of this manifestation, first manifestations of this growing awareness that the world changes through human action, right? And the Protestant ethic, you know, God knows everything. God knows if I'm going to heaven or hell after I die because God already knows, right? So how can I know what my future life after I die? What's going to be my future well-being after I die? If I am successful in this world today, it's a sign that God likes me. And this is not just some funny old fairy tale. This is America, right? America's founded by those people. And you know, that belief that if you're poor, you must be bad. You are doing something wrong. It's your fault that you're poor in America. Your fault. You're a bad person. And if you're rich, you deserve to be rich. And Donald Trump is the best example of that. We don't like Yangban. We don't like professional politicians because Yangban are the original professional politicians, right? And so why do I mention this? Because in political science, there's often the assumption that the most important aspect about being modern is the development of the modern state, right? Max Weber talked about the bureaucratic model, the rational legal model development of the state. And that means the standardization and reform of institutions. Like we already talked about the four critical trends that accompany the shift from ascription to achievement as the base of status. We see the demands for institutional reform, and that's really important. But that's not as important, I think, as the demand to politically participate. The demand to participate in public policymaking, what we call policymaking today. That overrides this. I mean, the German state under Max, in the 19th century was very efficient and rational, and that didn't eliminate Polish nationalism. Polish nationalists fought to separate from the rational legal German state of the 19th century. But this is typically assumed to be, the meaning of being modern, of modernity, is the efficient, rational state. And I think rather it's political participation. is this demand by the people to participate. And they want evidence that they're participating. They want people in power that they trust. They want people that represent them as their leaders. In other words, when they look at Donald Trump and they look at Donald, they think they're looking in the mirror. That Donald Trump is like me. I see me in Donald Trump, or at least my ideals that I aspire to. I want to be a rich, successful businessman. He's a rich, successful businessman. Donald Trump didn't take education very seriously. I don't take education very seriously. And look what Donald Trump did. I trust Donald Trump. I don't trust Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, with his college, Harvard law degree and his Muslim sounding name and his African-American background. I don't trust him. I trust white Protestant rich businessmen. I trust him. Even though I don't understand public policy questions, I trust him, not Barack Obama, not Joe Biden, his vice president, who's now going to become president, evidently. And when you start talking about trust, you start talking about emotion. Trust and emotion. Remember, you can't explain politics unless you understand emotion. You can't explain politics unless you understand emotion. And when you talk about emotion, you're talking about images and stereotypes and values and identities. And so the European Union is very complicated and emphasizes participation and lots of ways to participate. But can you trust Ursula von der Leyen if you're some Bulgarian living in Sofia? Who is Ursula von der Leyen? Do I trust her? Maybe I don't. Maybe I do if I'm an English-speaking Bulgarian with a high education who is very smart and very successful, and I live in beautiful big Sofia, capital of Bulgaria, with the wonderful restaurants, and I have a great job, and I go to the orchestra and the opera on the weekends, and oh yes, I like Ursula von der Leyen because she is like me. She is European, I'm European. But what about those illiterate peasants or barely literate peasants out in the countryside somewhere? Do they trust her? So, trust and this like I said, you cannot understand politics unless you understand the role of emotion. And emotion and nationalism and stereotyping all are associated with each other. And so, and that's a critical point. So. But before we go forward, I want to talk about the final exam. Hooray, the final exam. And let me see, I have to go like here and go screen share and go, I think that's the final exam. And share. And here is the final exam. So the European Union policymaking take-home final examination paper assignment, it's the same format as the midterm. Address the question, define European Union foreign policy. Explain why this term has assumed wide usage amongst those who study the European Union's international role. And that's taken from the textbook. That's on page 213. It's one of the questions for discussion. Okay, it's one of the questions for discussion. So why is it that we can talk about a European foreign policy, not a European Union foreign policy, a European foreign policy, when we talk about the European Union's, the EU's international role? Because the European Union doesn't include all of the European countries. It doesn't include Russia. And I think it's hard to convince me that somehow Russia is not European. I know its territory extends out to the border with North Korea, but obviously its cultural and educational and economic and political center is in Europe. Right? Siberia is more a colony. But we still talk about European foreign policy. Why are we doing that? Why is the world talking about European foreign policy when we talk about the European Union's international role. Why is that? Critique that question, address the question. And the grading criteria, the same ones we've talked about earlier, like we follow on the midterm exam. So it's due on Cyber Campus by Saturday, 5th of December at 7 a.m. So just, 25 days from now, 26 days from now. And again, the same rules, 450 words, 400 to 500 words, not including references. And the writer should use and cite information from assigned class readings from at least 3 different chapters from the second half of the book. The second half of the book we're covering in this part of the semester, chapters 6 through 10 of the course textbook, as a requirement of the essay. You can do more additional research. Any ideas you get from the lecture or that I present to you, you can use them, of course. But I have lots of ideas too when I write. I can't just write down my ideas on my papers. I've got to show where my ideas come from some kind of scholarly source, some kind of published source. So you have to, you can use the ideas I give you in the class, of course, but that doesn't count as a scholarly statement. You have to prove anything that you claim, any sentence in which you claim anything, you have to have a source citation with evidence to back it up in scholarly writing. If you start talking about stereotyping and emotion and images and you don't explain to your scholarly reader where that information comes from, where he or she can find that scholarly information, then you really can't say it. You can't state it. Unless you come up with a source. Now, I told you, I mean, these notions of stereotyping and images and emotion, they're from this book. There is a scholarly book here, right? A scholarly text that has this information there. But we're not using this book in this class. Well, but I'm using it, but you're not. So again, remember that any claim or assertion that the essay makes should be supported with scholarly evidence in the form of an in-text source citation. And cite the sources correctly. Don't put the whole source in the reference in the body of the paper. You have it, there are different ways. They covered that in class. The Modern Language Association style, the Chicago style, the American Psychological, but pick a style, okay? And then we will meet individually through Zoom on December 7th through 11th. So I will spend that weekend writing comments and sending them back to you. Hopefully I won't get disabled, and I will send them back to you so that we can meet on Zoom like we always do. And we'll also have to meet as a class because we have some debate, students signed up for debates on that final week. So we have to meet. Like I told you, originally, we were supposed to go until December 18 this semester. That's what I was told. So I planned the class around going to December 18. Then the word came out last week, I think, from the university that we're going to finish a week early. I don't know why, but we are. So we have to finish December 11. And then you have to submit the final draft of the paper electronically on Cyber Campus by Tuesday, December 15 at 7 in the morning. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? If not, you can always ask me questions later. And yeah, democracy in the European Union. And obviously it's a really important topic because we're all about democracy here, right? Democracy, democracy, democracy. That's what we stand for in this class. And so how about we do a poll? Yay, a poll. And let's see if I can call up the polls. Where is the... You see now, I made a poll and it's not coming up here. And maybe if I do this, launch poll and an end poll, and let's see if I can get the poll this way. So let me close this and let me see what is going on here. So forget about that. Let me see one more time. Why are the polls not coming up? I made a poll and it's not showing, and then it brings up this, I don't want to sign in again. I'm afraid it's going to shut down. Interesting. Okay, well, I guess we won't be doing that. Well, we'll do something else. Democracy in the European Union. Okay, so here are the notes. And keep in mind, participation, political participation, that's a human demand. It doesn't mean it's automatically a good thing. I'm not saying the European Union is good or bad. In fact, we can do another exercise. Here's a different exercise we can do, okay? I want you to define fascism, woo-hoo! Because that is a real form, that's also a form of political participation. So let's do a breakout room and assign you into 4 groups, assign automatically, and there are the 4 groups. So open all rooms, and I would like you to come up with, the chair of the group is the first person that pops up here. Come up with a definition of fascism. Please define fascism. So let me see if I can get this out of the way here, and like this. And so please define fascism. And so screen share, and here's your task. Define fascism. So join the groups. And Yarno, you're in charge of group 1. Choi Chon Yok, you're in charge of group 2. Yi Sang Moon, you're in charge of group 3. And Kinara, you are in charge of group 4. Go! Obviously, there's no right or wrong answer here. Yarno, where are you, Yarno?
Yeah,
Okay, take charge, Yarno.
yeah, I posted something in the chat. So
Yeah.
like
Okay.
in really simple way how to explain what fascism is.
Okay.